showing up. Hey everyone, hopefully we're live for day 4 of our 5 days together for the Hair Color Secrets Insider Bootcamp. I'm using a third-party app to welcome our wonderful guest, Bonnie Bonadeo. I'm just checking my phone to make sure that I'm showing up in the group before we get chatting. Yes, we're there. Good. So I'm going to keep checking in. I won't be able to see your comments right away live, but I'm going to keep peeking at my phone while Bonnie's talking. Oh, they are showing up here. We just don't know their names. So good. Good evening. Hi. So we see the comments, but we don't see your name. So forgive me if I don't call you by your name when I pick your question or your comment. So I am so blessed to have this woman in my life. When she was introduced to me, it was, when I say the universe shows up and gives you what you need, this is 100% an example of that. I was struggling to make a name for myself as an educator and put myself out there. And I really, my dream from the time that I stepped out of beauty school and went to my first IBS New York hair show, I looked up on the stage and they had their little Britney Spears head mic and we're talking on the main stage. And I was like, that's where I'm going to be someday. And at the time, you never think it's possible. And here I am doing it. And it's all thanks to Bonnie. Bonnie has the Beauty Agent Network. She has had so many hats in the industry, and I'll let her embellish a little more on that. But she has seen and done it all, and she's behind some of the biggest, most successful hair events that we've had in my career, especially in my 33 years. She's been behind the scenes for most, if not all of them. So she held a public speaking class called Stages. I'm flipping through my magazine, like I read from cover to cover as soon as it comes. And she spoke to me. It was, do you want to reach people? Do you want to teach? Do you want to get on stage? Do you not know how to even get started? I said, yes. And what I ended up getting was way more than I showed up for. There were lots of tears. There were lots of breakthroughs. And I invited Bonnie here tonight because the subject of today's lesson is personalities, getting along with coworkers, backroom bitching and drama, all of the things that we all have experienced and continue, unfortunately, to experience in the industry. And it all comes down to limiting beliefs and your childhood and things that you were made to think that you can't shake. And it all comes down to your own perspective. And we're going to talk all about it. So welcome, Bonnie. Thank you so much for coming, and take it away. It's all you.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm so proud to be here, and I'm proud to be a part of everything that you've done and accomplished over the last few years, because you really are someone to watch and pay attention to how you're doing it. And you're doing it right. You're doing it really well, and you're doing it right to be able to kind of build that long-term opportunity. And I know that for you, it's really about caring and making a difference in people's lives, not just trying to make something out of it, or increase something out of it, sell something out of it, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So talk a little bit about, we had everyone, hopefully everyone did their homework. You know how that goes. I always teach the 80-20 rule. There's always going to be that 20% that they sign up, they show up, they do their homework, they check their homework 4 times, they show up on time for the live event, and then they watch the replay and they do more homework. There's that 20%. And then there's the 80% who have all intentions of showing up, and something shiny sparkles over here and gets their attention, and off they go. And that's the end of them. So I'm venturing to guess that, out of the 1,200 people that signed up for this boot camp, I'm hoping that there's, at least 200 to 300 showing up live tonight. And then another, handful will show up for the replay. But it's rare that you get the entire full house of the people that have the best of intentions. And that was something that at your live event was so crystal clear from day one, minute one. I mean, just for a little background, it was supposed to be a public speaking course. And of course you have the butterflies, because the number one fear above dying is public speaking. So most people would rather poke their eyeballs out than get up and speak. So we're all sitting in this room, and I've never met you, and I've never met Alejandro or any of the other people. I'm totally by myself. And within literally, I think the first 10 minutes, I'm up on a stage being told to speak, and no time for prep, but also no time for nerves, which was a good thing. You know, I think if you had told me on day one, like, tomorrow you're going to have to speak, this is your topic, this is how many minutes, I would have been up all night tossing and turning and having stories in my head. But because it was like, Elaine, go, get up, I was like, oh, okay. And I spoke the way that I'm speaking right now, just very off the cuff, and told my story. And I look out, and you had said, you know, everyone's going to give feedback. And I look out to all the little eyeballs, and everyone's like this. And I'm like, here's the story.
They were just as scared as you were.
Yeah. And thank you. And that's exactly what you don't realize. I'm looking at these blank stares, and immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, I sucked so bad that they don't even know what to say. They're speechless. They don't know what to say. And no one said anything. And I was like, okay, well, that sucked. And I sit down, and then the whole time I'm supposed to be watching other people, I'm listening to my story in my head of how bad I sucked.
Of what you said, what you could have done better. Yeah.
So then I go to dinner that night with my best friend, who is talk about overthinkers, and has her master's in psychology. So she's like beyond analyzing everything. So first of all, we're at a Mexican restaurant. I hate Mexican food. So I'm like in a mood, because I'm like, and it's expensive Mexican. So I'm just like, oh, I don't like anything on this menu. My day sucked. I'm a terrible speaker. I don't know why I'm here. I flew across the country for this to torture myself. And she gives me the worst advice known to man. She tells me, just how about, like, don't be so you. You're a little much, you know, like, for people that don't know you, I think you, like, you know, you're really a lot. So how about, like, tone it down and do like wear a navy blazer tomorrow and wear heels and do the steeple hands, you know, all the stuff. And I'm like, really? So we're sitting next to these guys that are out of work function. I'm asking them, and it was like a 50-50 divide. Half the guys were like, hell no, you're a hairdresser. They don't want to see steeple hands and blazers. I'm like,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And Johnny was there from Redken. So I was like, I want to impress him because I want a company to think that I'm great. So all this crap is going through my head. So I listen. And day 2, I have my navy blazer, and you've recorded it, and I have to find those recordings because people would die. So I'm doing the steeple hands, which I just found out in sign language is vagina. So I was doing vagina.
All these men are up there doing
all vagina. These men, yeah. So I'm doing the pacing back and forth to make sure it's interesting, and I'm very monotone and very professional, and I tell the same exact story, and I get and I'm like, okay, this is some bullshit here. Like, you need to give me some feedback. And the one guy raised his hand and said, I forget his name, but I know his exact face. And he said, who the hell was that? And where's the girl from yesterday? And I said, where the hell were you yesterday to tell me that I did a good job? We all want this positive affirmation. We need it. It's like water. It's like we need it to survive. And it's so silly. It's so crazy how we think we need to act and behave a certain way because of what we think other people want to see and hear. And we always try, when we're starting something new, we have the tendency to look at what everybody else is doing and try to be them. You see somebody who's really lighting it up, and you're like, oh, I need to be like them and teach like they do, because look at them. They're in the magazines and they're this, but that's them. That's not you. So it was a big emotional, total roller coaster of a weekend of figuring it all out. And the best advice that you gave was, it's all about your story, and everybody needs to connect to you and your story and your authentic self. And since learning that, every relationship that I have has completely changed for the better, because I don't tell people what they want to hear or what I think I should say or do or be. And if I don't want to go to something, I say, no, thank you. I don't tell a big story about why I can't go. So it was really just an accidentally fabulous all around, workshop. And I think that if more salon professionals as a whole, but especially owners, understood about the victim, the villain, the hero, the hijack. I came back from lead, your second. I went to stages. I loved it. I got tortured and I went back for more torture and I did workshop because I'm like,
you liked torturing you.
And I said, I've read so many books on business and they all say the fish stinks from the head down. If your company is having cultural issues, look in the mirror. Yeah. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, I'm not making them behave a certain way, but now that I understand it, I 100% was making them behave a certain way because I set myself up as mommy. Mommy going to make everything go away. Mommy's going to put stuff in your chairs. Mommy's going to take care of everything. And then when I would go on vacation and they were needy and bothering me, I was like, why are they bothering me? I'm on vacation. Why? And then I'm like, I set it up that way.
Yeah. We're funny people, aren't we? Oh, yeah. We're funny creatures. For me, starting out to wanting to do those events really came from my experience. I mean, obviously being in the industry for 38 years, and working behind a chair for a portion of it, but mainly working in the education field and working with manufacturers and, being the director of education for PBA. I literally had so many instances where people had to be on a stage and they were backstage having panic attacks. And I was talking them off the ledge and pushing them on the stage at the same time. And it's like, we just paid $50,000 for your ass. You get out there and do your thing because, they were authors, but they weren't speakers. They were industry recognized hairdressers, but not educators. And I was constantly back there, guiding people to get on that stage. And I finally am like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm ready to either teach this or be on the stage myself. And I knew that, for me, it was to be the teacher, first and foremost. I mean, now I get the privilege of being able to do both of them, but I loved being the teacher of it. And it was also during a very transitional time in our industry where a lot of mergers and acquisitions were taking place. So educators were getting sidebarred and they weren't working for these big manufacturers anymore. And they were starting this indie educator times was starting. And the interesting thing is without product or without the brand that they were working for, they honestly didn't know what the hell to talk about on the stage. So they were just kind of like, I'm parting the hair in the middle now. And I'm going to spray some stuff on it, and they were terrible. And so that kind of created the opportunity for me to create the Beauty Agent Network and have this agency of educators and business resource people that needed an outlet, needed a way to be able to get out. And then the speaking became that secondary part to it. And I knew that, it had to be beyond what we would get at, Toastmasters. I've done it all, you guys, but I'm telling you, based on my personality here that we'll go through in just a little bit, every time they clicked when I said, okay, or something like that, I wanted to just take that little and, shove it down their throat.
I didn't know they did that. They click when you say,
Yes, it wasn't. I mean, and it's like 75, we got 75 ums on you type thing. I was more like a like or okay kind of person. More than the ums, but it drove me crazy because it really didn't, all it did is make you self-conscious of being you. And if you are engaged and connected with somebody, they can say and like in a regular pattern, not like an over excessive amount, but they can say all of that and you won't notice it because you're engaged in the truth of the content.
Yeah.
And then what they're saying in there. So that was kind of the angle to be able to, shift that around. I'm excited to be bringing stages back in 2020 in March. So Yeah.
What a great opportunity and what great timing. It was so perfect for what I needed. I talk about it all the time. I kept feeling this like, oh, feeling every time I was in the salon, there's something more. There's something more that I need to be doing. Everything felt so boring and routine. You know, do the touch up, do the highlights, do a corrective color, touch up, highlights, corrective color, talk to the client, get her the coffee. How's your kids? How's it? And I'm like, there's so much more. There's so many struggling hairdressers who need what I have to offer. And I love, love, love doing it. But it was, how do you even get started? You know, how do these people, and 98.9% of the people having success were under the mommy of the Redkins, the L'Oreals.
They were.
You know me. It would never work if I was with
we all came from
manufacturer.
major manufacturers that trained us in that structure and in that ability to be able to make those kind of connections. And those were wonderful days in the industry, being able to gain that access to that. And all the manufacturers that I worked for, they were hairdressers. The owners were hairdressers. So I worked directly with hairdressers, teaching hairdressers. So it was a really great time to be in that experience. And, you know, today they're just looking at the number of followers you have, which is so shameful because
It is.
the real talent is being pushed to the wayside. And the ones that are having to keep up with their following, but also now understand that they're not necessarily a structured educator or a trainer in that manner. Some of them are taking it on and they're doing a great job of learning the skill. But most of them are not. And I think the companies are starting to also pay attention to that may not be increasing their sales like they think it is. You know, education like this, gathering people together like this, being truthful, engaging them, sharing them tips and tidbits, that's loyalty. And that's how we're going to be loyal to companies in the future, is when they're offering this type of stuff, or even people in the future.
I think the hardest thing for me, and it's a lesson that I've also learned from you and from Alejandra and the coaching piece, is it's so easy for me to say, oh yeah, step 1, you know, do a Malibu treatment. Step 2, glaze it with this. Step 3, and give them exact one by one bullet points of exactly what to do. And then I thought, you know what? That's not teaching. That's just answering. That's like being a hotline. You know, I'm not teaching them how to figure it out. So I tried my new method in some of the forums, and I need to stay on my own page. It is not going
Did you get
well.
attacked? Did the bullies come out?
Oh my gosh. I just did it again today. I talked yesterday on yesterday's lesson.
Yeah.
And today I did it again. This girl said something about, you know, I just hate that as a hairdresser, you can't get sick. You just can't. And I'm like, no, everybody gets sick, you know? So she said, you know, you never have time to fit those people in. And I said, well, on a positive note, you know, unlike being in an office environment, you don't come back to 2,000 emails and a stack of papers on your desk. You just jump back in and start doing hair again, trying to like make it like, you know, there's a lot of positives to the Susie Sunshine over here. And she was like, no, I need to find, you know, she just kept, and I was like, oh, these people need emotional intelligence so bad. Bonnie.
Well, let's go there. Let's go there. And I see some friends showing up. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you guys here. And thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate you guys being here. I can see some names on the screen, but the rest of them are here on my phone.
Oh,
but
good.
welcome.
They're giving
right,
their
where do you want to start in this juicy conversation?
Well, for me, yes, I love the Myers-Briggs, and I think it tells a lot. But you and I started to chat before we went live about how many other different personality type tests there are, and that, you know, now that people know what their personality type is, it's kind of like opening Pandora's box. I want all of you to just keep going with it. Like get a book on what your personality type is. Learn, why do certain personalities poke you? It's pretty much you're going to see that the traits in them do not go well with your traits. And that's why things like that come up. But being emotionally intelligent and understanding the whole dynamic, you and I both ended up becoming life coaches as a result of being coached, because we both were like, where has this information been our whole life? Can you imagine how wealthy and amazing we would be if we learned this 20 years ago? We would not be divorced.
It's possible I would be working less.
Yeah, right? So, I mean, who knew that this had such an effect on not only our personal relationships, but our entire life? I mean, the way that a client, me after meeting you and Alejandra versus before, crazy client, front desk. Oh, Michelle's on her way. She's pissed. She said there's no parking out front, and she doesn't like coming at night, and she's been waiting for this. But they're building it up like Michelle's going to come in and just physically assault me. So before, I would pick up on her mood, and I would get my butt in a twist and start giving her attitude, and we would just butt heads the whole time, and the whole thing would be awful. And then everybody around me would be in a mood, because we all know how that goes, right? So
because emotions are contagious.
Oh, totally. You can feel the tension. It's like a big bubble. Now I meet Michelle at the door with her favorite beverage that I remembered from last time. And I hold the door open for her and I say, girlfriend, bring it in. Give me a big hug. Deep breath in, out. How you doing? It's okay. We have plenty of time. And I completely shift everything about that instant. She wants to kill me. She's just like, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm here. I'm fine. That happened in the past. This is now. I'm going to enjoy my visit. And it just shifts. And I'll say to Alejandra, I feel like I have like this Superman cape on with this special power that no one else has. And I almost feel like it's unfair, because it works. You can diffuse any situation, any irate person on the phone that's screaming at you from the credit card company. I look at myself in the mirror.
I still like to scream every now and then, but it doesn't get me very far.
Call me ma'am one more time. Just keep smiling. So talk about that and elaborate, kind of giving little breadcrumbs, but
I think that we are that type of personality. Those of us that are in the industry, I think we love these kind of personality tests because we're people persons. Like, we're in the people business. So people personalities are always fascinating to us. And, all of them that I've done. So, the Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, the disc, there's the color one. And then there's one that I do with my clients, which is a brand archetype one. All of them. I mean, what they tell me is I am absolutely positively that kind of person over and over and over again. And I know you guys are all popping what you're up here on a Myers-Briggs. So I'll tell you what I am. I'm an ENFJ-T. So I am extroverted. I am intuitive. I'm feeling, and I love this one here at the bottom here. I'm judging. I'm very judgy, and I'm turbulent. And
I was surprised that the T meant turbulent. I just looked that up right before we got on here, and I was surprised that was an answer.
The dash T, but I get it, because then when I do the Enneagrams, I'm a challenger, an achiever, and an individualist. So get out of my way. I got shit to do. And if I can't find somebody to help me do it, I'll do it myself. Okay. And then in my brand archetype, I'm an explorer, provocateur, and a sage. And that one,
I've done the brand one. You have to send me that link.
Yeah. And that one there that I really appreciate, because it has a little bit more depth for me, because as the explorer, I am the idea person. I have all these ideas that I want to implement, but the provocateur is saying, if I'm not engaging with others, the ideas won't come to fruition. I can't just keep trying to throw ideas at you. I have to you have to buy into some of these ideas before they can like take hold. And then of course the sage means that I have to be that calm person in the process of, once I engage you, fulfilling what I promised you on my idea. And that one, that one really kind of came in here. But here's my summary of all of these, because they are fun to do. It's important that you know who you are, but I believe we all know who we are. I know who I am. I know what I'm really good at. I know how well I work in certain arenas and such. The challenge we face in life is not understanding what we're not. So I want everybody to go back and look at your opposite on the screen. I want you to look at what you're not, because that's where we get stuck in life. That's where we get challenged in life. That's where our relationships go south. That's where failure steps in, is when we are incapable of seeing those areas that we're not and still being able to manage them effectively. So I know I'm not a thinker. I want to get stuff done. I don't want to think about it, right? Who has time to think about it? I want to do it. I'm not necessarily prospecting. What's my identity one here? I'm assertive and turbulent, kind of. I'm right on the line there. I'm definitely not introverted. So when I'm around people that are like that, I'm like you said, Elaine, I'm too much. So I can't change who I am, but I can be aware that other people might not connect with me in that same way. We do like-minded approaches. We like hanging around with people that are like us. But in a people business that we're in, we're going to be surrounded by people that are not like us and be challenged by them every day.
And do you remember in another way, when people are a lot like you, and there's that whole thing with the mirroring and you looking at people and they piss you off? The second workshop that I did with you, the lead one, I had my friend Truda with me, and we did that whisper down the lane exercise that I will never forget. It was so impactful. And of course, I was first again. And Truda had to turn to me and say, I'm so happy that you brought me to this workshop. And she's a talker. So she's like, I got so much more out of it than I thought. And da, 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 da. And I was supposed to repeat verbatim to the person next to me. And I summarized it, because that's what I do. I'm a Cliff Note girl. So I was like, I turned to the person next to me and I said, Truda's so happy that she came. She's getting a lot out of it. And you said, that's not what she said. And I was like, yes, it is. And you're like, no, that's not what she said. And we did it again. And then it got whispered down the lane, and little innocent Julie, the little quiet one that was at the end, that was with Brenton.
Yeah.
She summarized whatever it was at the end. And you said, great job, Julie. And I said, are you kidding me? This is only the second time I've ever been in your company. And I was like, are you kidding me? Did you really just do that? And you're like, what? And I said, I just did the same thing. And you told me I didn't do it right. And you just told Julie she did it right. And you pulled me aside, which I also will never forget. You probably don't even remember. You pulled me aside and you said, if I'm a little tough on you in these workshops, it's because I see a lot of myself in you. And please don't take it. And I thought that was so amazing for you to, number one, recognize that that was a thing. Yeah. And then to tell me that you felt that way, because I would have left that second workshop and said, her and I are oil and water. We're not going to get along. And look at us. I mean, we have so much in common and we have so much to give to the industry. And how sad would it have been for me to leave in a twist, like, ugh, I just paid all that money. She's mean to me. And every time Alejandra opened her mouth, I cried. I never cry. I was like, you two women are like, I don't know what kind of black magic you're doing. I don't cry.
Yeah, I know that you keep referencing Alejandra, and I just want to kind of clear the air on that we were partners at the time doing these events, and we've since gone our own way and have taken on other opportunities to do that. And we did a very graceful departure, and it was a beautiful time together and beautiful separation of us being able to take on other things. So I just want to kind of explain that to everybody. But some of the things that you're talking about, I am kind of bringing back on my own. to be able to do that. But, and, you know, and the point too, Elaine, is that Julie was that other person that's not like us, and that felt completely intimidated and shadowed by the power and the energy that we can create as the type of people that we are. And there was never going to be a chance that she was going to step in and step up if she didn't have a little bit of that encouragement in there too. So it's fun to be able to do that. I appreciate the part of these personality tests, and I'm not a big fan of like labeling ourselves in a sense, because I really believe as humans we all want the same thing, and that's, you know, to be valued, appreciated, respected at the end of the day. And we have to then be able to look at, if you understand your strength, be very aware of your weakness. I know where I'm strong and I know how to get certain things done, but I'm also very aware when I'm at a weak point, you know, like where I have to challenge myself to learn things. Like if I had to sit behind my computer and work on spreadsheets all day, I would be a horrible person.
I would
It's not
myself right in the
yes,
eyeball. For me to
not
just email,
not what I can do.
I need a break. I need a break. I got to get up and take a lap. I can't do it.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes I have to sit there and do that, and sometimes I can have other people do them for me. You know, but sometimes I need to sit there and do that, and so you know, I'm aware that it agitates me, and it's not my ideal source of being the greatest contribution to others. But
what's amazing too is like the forums in our industry, there's such a palpable energy on every page. Like I find myself the heat, I'm in menopause, so the heat's always coming, but it comes from my toes all the way up to my forehead when I read a certain thing. And I don't even have to look to see what page I'm on. It's in my feed and I don't even have to look. And I know it's that page. And I'm like, Elaine, take yourself off that page. You're not being welcomed and you're not helping them. Like it's
right.
The A at the end of mine, I'm INFJ-A and it's advocate. And I cannot help myself from wanting to put on the Superman cape all the time. And it frustrates me when I have an answer, but it's not being heard or welcomed, or, you know, people aren't open to it. And that the energy, I go off my phone and I'm just like in such an irritated mood. I can't even explain what it does to my energy. And it's a box like that I can choose whether to be in it or not. And it's these new stylists that's their only education. They're counting on those forums. And then as salon owners, me as a previous owner and my daughter now as an owner, we wonder why we can't find good people, because they're so beaten down and embarrassed. They ask a very valid question about something they don't know. And they were taught that this box gives them all their magical answers. And they go in thinking they're going to get this warm embrace and hug from someone with a lot of experience. And they probably are up for 3 days not sleeping with how mean some of the answers are. And something interesting that you and I both learned through the coaching is that inner 5-year-old. And that was like the ticket to relationships 101 for me, 100%. Like when you are in conflict with anyone, any person that you butt heads with, you are in battle with their 5-year-old self. And they don't even know that it's their 5-year-old self. And if you then know that, my husband and our relationship has completely changed for the better since we know each other's 5-year-olds. I'm like, oh, little Jeffy's out, tuck him in. And we laugh about it.
Or let him come out and play for a little bit.
Yeah. Does he need a little taffy and a little time out because he needs to go away right now. But imagine a salon and a workplace and, you know, the hair shows and clients and just everybody knowing to just keep their little 5-year-old in check. And to your point about knowing your strengths, but really working on your weaknesses, another dynamic part of the workshop was the villain, victim, and hero. That was unbelievable. I sit now at dinners with family. And I'm like, she's in, okay. And I am always in hero mode. It's my, and you guys listening, there is no good one. Like these are all bad. Hero, victim, and villain, they're all bad.
Being a hero, here's how I'm going to define that before you say anything else, Elaine. The victim and the villain don't exist unless the hero casts them as a character in their story. Yes. So the hero is seriously the one that you think you want to be, but it's the one that actually is the shit stirrer. Yeah. And then someone gets cast. I'm typically the villain, and I have two sisters. So when the three of us get together, we go right into victim, villain, hero like that. But it switches. Like I'm traditionally the villain. My middle sister, of course, is traditionally the victim. My older sister.
Let me see if people are like really confused by this right now. I want to see if there's questions.
My older sister plays the hero, and really, what it is you guys is it's kind of a way to be able to look at how drama is created and how we stay in drama.
Yep.
And your goal is to remove yourself from the drama, which means that you have to be able to determine, am I playing one of those roles? And you have to be really honest with yourself here. What role am I playing that's keeping this drama alive? Am I the victim, like somebody's doing something to me? Or am I the villain? They appear to think that I'm doing something to them. Or am I the hero trying to resolve the issue with a victim and a villain? And, and when you can look at that role, because every movie has these three characters in it. Every reality show has these three characters in it. You'll see all these reality shows will focus in around those three characters because they're going to be the most dramatic at any given time in there. And your goal, of course, is to not be in any one of those roles. But it happens so fast and it's instantaneous that you get caught up into the drama that sometimes you don't even realize that you're in it. And you can do it to yourself as well. You could be you can't be two characters or three characters at the same time, but you can roll from one to the next, like that. Okay.
It's crazy. And what's interesting is no two people in the conflict can be the same role. So even if normally I lean towards hero because I always want to solve everything. I want to fix everything and I'm bossy. So I'm just like, oh, you need to do this. You need to do that. We need to get together. And I think I'm fixing everything, but I being bossy and making people go into victim mode because they're like, or villain. Yeah. Villain, victim. And then to your point about the family, as soon as I get into a car with my mother and my sister, my mother is always in charge. It's always her way or the highway, which is why I'm so bossy. I learn from the best. My sister she has a plaque on the villain spot. She is not, the victim spot. She has not given up her victim ever. She is victim to her dying day and doesn't realize it. It's woe is me. She starts every sentence with, can you believe that? And she tells me the story. And I'm like, yes, I can believe that because you created that. What do you mean I created that? Victim? And then the villain says, you created that because you did this, this, and this. And I think that one sentence was, where the tears came up for me in both of those workshops, is that we create every speck of drama that's in our lives.
And we're creating it on other people too. Because we're not seeing ourselves and what role we're playing in it. Yeah. So when you can start to recognize, so seriously, you talked about these forums. If you look at some of these posts that get hundreds of replies in there, this is how you can practice this. Go through it and pick out who is being the victim, who's being a villain, and who's being a hero. The hero is always going to be the one that says, God, you guys are so mean. She's just trying to ask a question.
Yeah.
The victim is like, I have the same situation. It happens to me too. And then the villain is like the one that's attacking and being like, well, why would you do that? That's stupid. It looks ugly, or whatever the case is. So you can see it in those forums, and then you have to decide if you're going to take on one of those roles, then expect to be in the drama of it all too. And look also at these moments where you're creating your own victim, villain, hero in here. So here's an example of how you would do it to yourself and not even know it. And it's kind of in that self-talk thing. So you could say, oh God, I can't fit into my clothes. All my clothes are getting really tight. And then you'd be like, well, it's because you're not working out, Bonnie. And it's like, well, I've been a little busy lately. So I think I'll start working out tomorrow. But tonight I'm going to have a glass of wine. So, I'll start tomorrow. That's the hero talking. The glass of wine is playing a role of a hero, but I'm beating myself up and victimizing, villainizing myself in that same moment. So we do this to ourselves all day long in our head.
Even more so than with other people, for sure. So we can tell each other the same story of the habits and excuse ourselves for our bad habits.
We know how this works because we're doing it. But what we don't see is sometimes when we're doing it to other people. I can villainize other people that are a little different than me because I get frustrated with people that think too much or are slow to move. I'm like, kind of like, yeah, hurry up, type of thing. But it's, the level then of emotional intelligence that I've adapted here also kind of guides me to kind of like really look at people with compassion and empathy. And I step in first with compassion and empathy before I start attacking like I used to back in the day.
I agree. I'm much less judgment. Judgment used to be my knee-jerk reaction, immediate judgment. As soon as I look at somebody, I'm just like, oh, da, da, da. Especially at the airport, I'm like a judge machine. Now I catch myself.
Hey, it's natural as humans. We're judgy. We're gonna be able to kind of do that. But it's the action you put forth at it at some point. Jeff and I went to go see Wicked the other night, and other people happened to be with us that this gal helped us with some parking spaces. She lived in a condo across the street from the theater, and she was helping these two other gals and us to be able to park in her structure. So we met them in this process, and we're hanging out with them now, having a little appetizers and stuff. And she comes walking up and she goes, the fat girl just ate all of the things, or all of the whatever it was. It was like a chicken skewer or something like that. The fat girl just took every single one of the chicken skewers. And I'm like, what? Like, first of all, I don't know this woman at all. Right. And now she's referencing somebody very loudly in this room as the fat girl. And I'm thinking, who is she talking about? And she's like, that one right over there. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know who you are to guide you with compassion and empathy right now, but I have to step away.
Right. I need to remove myself before the fat one beats the shit out of me.
Yeah. And the friend goes, oh, she's just like that. And I said, well, you know what? I get that we're all just like that, but I don't have to be around that.
Right. Good for you.
And she kind of toned it down a little bit, but it's, those are the moments where you just kind of think, I really want to be the best person I can be. And I'm tested at times all day long, but in the end, I want to put my head on the pillow at night and I want to trust that I was the best person I can be. And I want to wake up the next morning without regret of the kind of person I have been for the day and continue to be the best person again the next day.
Now, just completely cut me off if this is way too personal, but do you think that your relationship with Jeff, that you were attracted to him and that he's your person now because you've changed all of these limiting beliefs and you've done all the work? I think that once you get on the other side of it, is he completely different than any guy you would have dated when you didn't understand these roles and how we create our own circumstances and all this fun stuff?
I wouldn't necessarily say completely different, because the person who's different is me. I get to look through life with a different set of opportunity now because I've learned about me. It's not trying to attract to a particular type of person that I think is the right person for me. It's me being okay with me. But
do you think you have less conflict and you're able to not jump all over each other the way you would have been when you're in that judgy, irritated space?
Yeah, it wasn't judgy and irritated. It was absolutely just like, why bother? Why bother? Why bother being in a relationship if they're all going to look like this? Well, guess who is the character in that role? I was creating all of these relationships to look like that. So, but I do, I do believe in destiny, but I believe more in when you really get clear on who you are and you're comfortable with who you are, and you can accept your good, your bad, and your ugly, and your experiences, your circumstances, your upbringing, those tragic things that may have happened when you were younger. When you can accept all of those and know that they've made you who you are, then you can step into a life that is going to warrant greater things and better relationships and more success and greater opportunities.
It's amazing when you understand how much easier it can all be. I always describe, people were like, what's a life coach? I don't get it. What is it? And I say, Truda, that I referenced earlier, has her master's in psychology. She became a life coach after she got her master's in psychology, because the way that I explain it is, coaching to me is bringing you, pushing you to be a better you. It's not sitting in your shit. It's not sitting in your dirty diaper and just complaining about the same thing over and over again. Traditional therapy is, oh, this happened. I was the baby and I was never picked on the team because I was the chubby girl. And, you just keep sitting in it and sitting in it, where coaching is like, what are your dreams? What are your goals? Let's together help you get there. And now, at the age of 52, I have a life coach. I'm getting ready to sign up with a weight loss coach. I've done every diet known to man. And this woman, the way she speaks, her whole philosophy, she speaks to me. I listen to her podcast every day when I walk on the beach, and she's no bullshit. And she says, there's no magic thing. If you want some magic program, the keto this, the Weight Watchers that, she's like, that's not what it's about. The one thing that pulled me in to buy her program is, be 1% better today than you were yesterday. I can handle that. I can be 1%
that's
better.
Manageable.
Yeah.
That's completely manageable to be able to do that, and I look at the opportunities that I have now today because of the work that I've done for myself, and that work that I get to do for other people, because even though I might be the teacher and the coach at times, I'm still the student in that process, because when stuff comes up for my clients, it comes up for me too. I'm not immune to any of this as a human being. It shows up for me too. I mean, I'm in the middle of writing another book that's going to launch at the end of December. And I got to tell you, it triggered me. I wrote a story similar to what you know about me, Elaine, and kind of, surmising it in this way that, we want to be this great person, but we get stuck in life sometimes. And I'm, collaborating with these 11 other women. And I just I wanted to just pull out and say, no, I'm sick of hearing this story. I'm sick of doing the work. I don't want to peel back one more freaking layer. Because the minute I got into my story, it's like it opened back up again. Pandora's box is alive and kicking, and I have to work through some more stuff. And of course, all the women were triggering me and all their stories were triggering me. And I'm like, okay, I'm in it again. This is another space I have to kind of work through. And I'm going to be patient with myself to be able to do this. And I'm not going to, try and get caught up in the drama triangle and villainize other people or play the role of the victim in it. And, kind of work my way through it. But there's truth to all of that. And I say, the most important thing you can do is connect better with you so that you can connect better with others.
And simply the awareness of you going through that experience of the fight or flight response is so real and so obvious now that I understand people's behavior and emotional intelligence. It's like, you see it with clients. I had a client come in, she waited weeks for this appointment. And she's sitting and she was early, which is usually a sign of nervousness too. They think that they have more control if they get there before you're ready. So she's sitting there watching me do someone else's color. And she's asking me a million questions and I'm answering all of her questions. And I'm like, I'm so excited for you. You're going to love it. And by the time she put the robe on and it was her turn and she sat in my chair, she spun around and looked right up at, they do that where they look up your nose. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to skip the color. I'm just going to get a cut. And I said, no, you're not, because you waited 3 weeks for this appointment. I said, I understand. It's go time. You're starting to really get nervous. I promise you, you will not leave this salon today until you are so in love with yourself, you can't leave the mirror. I will stay until midnight until you look like you do right now. If you hate what I do, I will take you back to exactly what you look like right now. And she's like, yeah. Really? Are you sure? And it was wonderful. And she loved it. And she's been coloring it ever since. But understanding that real fear, like to me, I can't even imagine being that afraid of having your hair colored. Like that's like unimaginable to me.
But looking at all these people that are making comments here at this point in time, like what is that thing? What is that fear that shows up that you're disguising in a role as a hero or a victim or a villain? Because that's what it is. It's fear. It's fear of owning your own self. And fear of, because you don't feel protected or you don't feel safe in that moment. So you feel like you have to either avoid something or fight about something or just like shut down from something.
I was at an event in the Pennsylvania Poconos. They had all these great speakers. We sat outside. It was like a weekend fun, casual hair event. And this one speaker, we were in the big tent and there was like 2 bathrooms off to the side. And there was probably 350 people in this tent. And the speaker said, hi, my name, just pretend it's me. Hi, I'm Elaine Travis. I'm going to talk to you about my passion for hair color. And, I got my start in the industry and And they said, I want everybody to reach under your chair and whoever has a quarter taped to your chair is going to come up on the stage and share with me your experience. The whole room
freaked out.
Off. I went to the bathroom.
There better not be a
literally 300 out of the 350 people went to the ladies. They were like it was like a mass stampede. And here's me like, oh, damn, I didn't get the quarter. I wanted the quarter. I wanted to get up and get on stage. So just personality, the way that and ironically, I'm not an extrovert. Like people would automatically think because I love to speak on stage and I love to teach and I love people. I am an extroverted introvert. When I get done teaching, and it, at those shows, I don't go out to dinner with everybody. I don't go to the cocktail party. I have room service. I get my little pint of ice cream and I watch TV and I go to bed and I get up and teach again. I don't like that whole, hi, nice to meet you. Hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? All that small talk. I hate it. So doing this Myers-Briggs, I was like, oh, I get it. Like if you're my people, if it was like you and I and Rowena and a couple people that I know, I would be out all night because you're my people and I know you and I'm comfortable with you. But you bring in 300 strangers and I have to mingle and go from table to table and do the whole pinky out. No, that's not happening. Yeah, so it's just really interesting, that fight or flight response, and that, with fearful things that are new experiences. I have a funny story. I went to Miraval because Oprah did one of her shows where she was swinging it was called Swinging a Prayer. And she pulled the thing and she went swinging. And I said, I'm going there and I'm going to do that. So I dragged my bestie and we go on this trip and I'm signed up for everything. And I am not physically fit. I am not athletic. I have no core. When they say use your core, I'm like, I'm screwed. I have no core. So all these things were like super challenging. And I have the type of personality that I don't want to watch 10 people do it before me. The palms are getting sweatier. The thoughts are go running away like a freight train. I just want to get it over with. So I always raise my hand to go first. I went first in the public speaking thing. I always go first because I just want to rip that Band-Aid off. So it bit me in the ass on this one because we were doing the zip line and it was a really high ladder that you had to climb.
Yes.
And the activity before that, I went first and people were up my butt rushing me, and it made me feel panicked because I know that I'm slower and I didn't like that feeling. So I was like, you know what? Next time I'm not going first. I'm going last. Guess what happened? Everybody's up on the damn platform waiting for me because now I have the pressure because I'm last and they couldn't go until I got up there. So I was like, damn it. Sometimes no matter what order you go in, you're still the sucky one. But once you did it, once I got up there and did it, I was like, again, just like the audience when I spoke, they're all sitting there thinking about what they're going to say and they're all preoccupied. Those people on the zip line were up top, sweaty palms, worrying what that experience jumping off that platform was going to be like. They weren't paying attention to how long it took me to get up there. Not one bit. And I know that now, but when you're in it, you're like, I'm just walking away. I'm going to find an excuse to get out of here. I don't want to do this. So it's crazy. Like, to your point, we do these things to ourselves and we don't even realize it. It's all the story in our head.
It's all the story. And it, you know, it goes back to a lot of our upbringing and, you know, those type of limiting beliefs that we had growing up. And we can, you know, we can get through all of this though. We really can get through all of this. What I'd love to see though happen more in the world today is that we just, like, seriously, we just have to be a little bit more aware of how we're connecting or not connecting with other people. You know, are we pissing them off? Are we making them wait? Are we, you know, creating more drama? Are we showcasing our fear and that's creating fear in other people? You know, I mean, we're human at the end of the day, but when you're aware of who you're being in all of this, that's the person you can change.
Who's your friend? Is that your little doggy behind you?
That's my little Lily.
It looked like a cat at first. I'm like, I didn't know you had a cat.
That's my little Lily. My little Chihuahua. Yeah. She, when she sees me talking on, especially if I'm doing lives by myself where there's not another person on it, she honestly has to jump on my lap and think, "You're crazy, woman. I'm going
to give you somebody to talk to." That's awesome.
Yeah. She thinks I'm going crazy, but when she hears somebody else's voice, she's pretty good about not staying in there. I love all the comments that people are sharing here, you know. And
so here's one. Can you see this? I used to assume because I was capable, others should be too. I've learned that everyone's different and I'm more empathetic now. This is so me. I say every day out loud. I talk to myself in front of my computer and I'm like, seriously? Are you kidding me? And my husband's like, are you talking to yourself again? I'm like, yeah. How can you not know that? Like, there's certain things that I'm just like, that's what Google is for. You just talk into your phone and you get any answer that you want, you know? And it's just crazy to me, but it is what it is. And it's how we're taught. If our parents wanted us to ask them for every little thing
whoever that
we ever needed to learn. Sorry, I lost
because it just said Facebook user. So whoever's comment that was, trust that you are a mentor in life for others. Your capabilities is telling you that that's your gift. If you're capable, you are capable of helping others in life. And that's your gift. So sometimes we see it as just like, I'm capable and they're not. I'm just going to do my own thing. But the truth is, how you are going to be a contribution to others is to help them be capable.
I like that. That's very true.
Look at it. That's kind of like that next level of, it's one thing that I'm aware of who I am. It's another of how I'm a contribution to others based on who I am.
Here's another one. Worked with another hairdresser. She would walk into the room and my whole body would shift. My heart rate would become rapid. It was horrible. Luckily, she's no longer at the salon. Oh, we could talk a whole other session on the bad apple thing, because 99% of salons have that person in there and the owner is so crippled with fear of letting that person go. And I talked a friend through making that transition. She just kept reaching out to me saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was like, look, I'm happy to help coach you through any kind of situation, but you keep coming back to me. I said, instead of coming back to me, write this down and date it in a notebook. And every time it comes up, write it down and date it, write it down and date it. And you're going to see that she's never going to change. And if she's doing this to the whole entire culture of your business, you're never going to move forward as long as she's there. I don't care if she brings in $400,000 a year. Yeah, it stinks to give that income, but think about the potential income of having 5 happy people in her place.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
And this sounds like in this situation here, another hairdresser, and she would walk in and my whole body would shift. So you have to be able to look at who are you being in that moment? And who is she being that's irritating you? And sometimes we're more alike than we're different. Sometimes the other people irritating us is what irritates us about ourselves. Now, sink on that for a little bit. Because I promise you, you're going to find something that's more common than more diverse in your statement here. And then you'll have to look at, are there going to be other people in life that are going to step up and make you, your heart rate go up? Yeah, sure there are. But you have to look at you first. Yeah. These are good. Let's keep going with this.
Here's a good one. Time to leave. Because that you have zero control. Like you can't just say, I'm going to stay away from that person.
You can coach up. I mean, one of the hardest things that we learn in life is sometimes it's easy to lead across and lead down, but leading up is a bit of a challenge. But I promise if you really want to be that kind of powerful person in the world, you can lead up, which means that you got to model a particular behavior and you have to be able to be authentically honest in some situations. But if it's, if at the end of the day, if it's just making you sick and you're not good with it, then yeah.
Yeah, definitely try and make anything work. But if it's kind of like the personality of my point earlier, the fish stinks from the head down. If you have a dictator who, is the activity that we did at the lead workshop, the conversations with it's not what you say, it's how you say it was so, life-changing for me because I have a tendency to should and recommend and overcoach. So if a staff member was across from me and they're one-on-one, I would say, okay, I see that your retail's down. So what you need to do is you need to and you. And I, of course, was the example again in that situation. And I had to talk to an employee who was chronically late. And I still kept trying to be the fixer, the hero, the cape. And it was so hard for me to say, how can you change the behavior? Asking the questions. How can we go about this differently? How can you change the behavior? What changes can happen so that we can have, an ideal? It was so awkward, the wording, but so magical. And I came back to the salon and I was skipping around and happy and, learned all these things. And the staff was like, what's up with her? Like, what did she just come from? And I said, I learned so much about behavior and how I may be coming off. And the hijack piece, Bonnie, if you were one of my girls in the salon, I had an upstairs office and nobody was ever brought into the office because they were in trouble. It was, I got to talk to you about a wedding party, or I got to quick talk to you about whatever. And it was just a privacy thing. And I would say, hey, Bonnie, at the end of tonight, can I have like 5 minutes with you in my office? And I would blurt that out on the daily all day long. And then I learned in the workshop that as soon as that person hears those words, they get the ringing in the ears of this is the test of the emergency broadcast system. Their fingers go numb. They're completely getting fired in their mind. I'm oblivious. I'm like, I wanted to ask you out for a glass of wine and just to catch up. You know what I mean? It was not even one bit negative. And I know that, but you didn't know that. And then when I learned about the how long the hijack lasts and that your blood pressure elevates and that you can't see straight. So the 5-minute meeting that you and I have, you didn't hear a word that I said.
Oh,
and then tomorrow, when you don't do the behavior that we talked about, and I'm like, is she an idiot? We just talked about this yesterday, but I didn't know that you couldn't even hear a word that I said because your ears are ringing and your blood pressure's through the roof. So I'm like, why are we not learning this stuff in grade school?
No, and that's
really
honestly
crazy.
when you get hijacked, what that's saying is that your logical part of the brain, so the part of the brain that helps to make decisions, actually gets hijacked and takes a back seat to the emotional part of the brain that steps in because it thinks you're in danger and it doesn't know the difference between perceived or real danger. So it hijacks your analytical thinking. And when you get hijacked, it means that, cortisol is going to start running through your body, and your brain says, hey, danger, danger. And then cortisol starts running through your body. And then, to be able to have you react, run, fight, be still, whatever it is. And when that happens, it stays in your system. Cortisol can stay in your system, for 4 hours or longer, depending on the severity of your stress level at that given moment. And you will lose in a 3-minute hijack. So 3 minutes of this happening and cortisol getting in your system, you lose 75% of your cognitive skills, 75% of your decision-making analytical part of your brain that supports you in being a smart, capable person goes away. And your emotional part is stepping in to protect you.
And when your emotional 5-year-old is stepping in
and
to protect you.
What's showing up is the emotional 5-year-old that is incapable of at that point, but you're not making any decisions. So how we communicate, the words that we use and how we communicate is powerful. And I got to tell you guys, all this texting bullshit that you're out there doing with your clients, you got to stop. You need a system. You need a system that says you are in business. And it's like, hello, we're closed on Sundays. Or, hey, we're not here right now, but we're open first thing on Monday morning at 8 a.m. Get a system to start managing that part of your communication as a business, because you'll never rest if you're in that position where you got clients texting you 24/7. And texting communication is like learning how to balayage hair for the first time. Okay. Just like we have to learn a particular technique, like Elaine, you said, a how-to process. How to be able to communicate via text is also a very powerful approach to it, but we shouldn't be doing that. Like in the end, that's not what texting was designed for. So I say that there's like 3 things that you need to do. The first thing in a text that you're doing is acknowledge people. How many times have you seen on those Facebook forums that people are showing the pictures of the text and the hairstylist didn't once acknowledge them? And an acknowledgement is kind of like, hi, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate you getting back to me. Boom, you're softening the tone right there.
Right.
And then the second thing you want to do is to be able to be compassionate. I understand. Let me see how I can help. Okay, you are creating a form of engagement to be able to get to the bottom of it. And the third is curiosity. What don't you know that they know that you need to ask the right questions in order to get to the bottom of this situation? And if at some point you're texting 2 or 3, 4 or 5, 6 times into it and you still don't have the answers, pick up the phone or set up an appointment. But don't.
And I think things can things can be very misconstrued in a text because everybody's in a hurry and they come off so short with people. And that's another example of you're responsible for what happens, because my staff would say to me, oh, can you believe, so-and-so's asking me to do her daughter's wedding and go to her house. And I'm like, well, why does she have your phone number? We have a full-time receptionist. We have online booking. There's no reason for her to be in your phone right now. Yeah. So you gave her your number and now you're upset that she's crossing the boundary. So boundaries is a whole other class that we can talk about for 4 hours.
Yes.
I mean, I'm crazy.
I'm a fanatic about that kind of miscommunication, that kind of behavior that's taking place. And what's happening is you're hijacking the client. The client's hijacking you, and all you're doing is going from victim to villain, victim to villain, victim to villain, victim to villain, villain to victim, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And guess what? Nobody's going to play the hero in that at all.
Right.
There's no hero that's going to come in and even add to this story at that point. And the truth is, you're not being a leader and you're not managing your client when you're doing that, and if you want to really powerfully be running a fabulous business, then you're gonna step aside from that, and you're gonna say, I want you to be 100% happy, like you said earlier, Elaine. I want you to be absolutely happy. I want you to not be able to not look at yourself in the mirror before you go. And the only way that I'm going to be able to do that is if you please come in and set up a time for me to see you.
Absolutely.
And
communication on, we did a whole thing. I think it was day one. Yeah. Day one was setting up client expectations and being clear from the very beginning of the relationship. You can't expect a client 5 months in to your relationship to know that you have a 24-hour cancellation policy if they've never been told. You've never handed them a written card. You've never, had it in a frame or put it on your menu or set it on the phone on their first visit. And then we're the first ones to bitch when they break the rule that they didn't know was a rule. So setting up, setting the tone right from the beginning and setting up that relationship.
And listen, we're all consumers. We're all consumers. We're trying to get away with as much as we can at any given moment. I know as a consumer, I'm doing that. So they're doing it to us as well. This is a good one here. Thank you for pulling this one up. The one that Pam just wrote. So if we control our thoughts, is it possible that we would do? Yes, definitely. Understand that my thoughts spark emotions, which can cause reaction. That can either be negative or positive. Yes. But you know what? I want you to look at it, Pam, from this point of view, that the truth is we're not in control. We're hardwired in a particular way. We're emotional first and logical second. The fact that we have the logical part of our brain is a newer entity to us as human beings. So when we try to control things, control is just another way of reacting. It's a form of reaction. So think about it from a place of, I'm aware that I'm an emotionally reactive person. I'm going to be prepared to be less emotional in my reaction to that and be more compassionate. So I know that I can look at it from an empathy standpoint. I don't really have all the answers to be reacting right now. And when I have all the answers, if I do need to react, then it means that I'm in danger or something's not right. Yeah, we're just emotional beings. We're going to just create emotions all day long and be driven by that. Please find a way to stop texting.
So my answer to that is simply just changing how you go about it. Do one pre-done text that you can copy and paste and send to every single person on your list. A few years ago, I sat down and I added up how much money I was missing every year by doing free hair for family, friends, relatives, all that. I'm like, I'm just curious. Like, I know it seems like a lot, but let me see what it is. And I was only working 3 days a week. So if I had any family or freebies during those times, I really cut down my income. So it was outrageous, the amount that I was bleeding money. And I was like, this is my fault. Like, I set it up this way. Nobody put a gun to my head and said I had to do hair for free. So I was like, how can I even stop this bleeding? And you talk yourself into just keep doing it because you're like, it's awkward now. It's been 20 some years. How do I stop it? And I just said to my family, this is a business. I have kids in college. I have a lot of bills. I have a limited amount of time in the salon. I love you. You're more than welcome to still come to my salon. And, if you can work your schedule around it, that I can do you on a day off, I can give you a little bit of a break, but I have to start charging you for your services because there's just too many of you. There's only one of me. I'm tired. I'm getting older. I can't do this anymore. And all of a sudden, nobody needs their hair done. They're going to the next cheap person because we think that, they're so loyal. They love us. No, they don't love us. They love free. That's the bottom line. They love free. And they all seem to survive when we stop, giving away the free lunch. So that was a big lesson. But I was like, I tossed and turned. I, sat and ruminated with my husband. What am I going to do? Everybody's going to be mad at me. And I'm sure they talk about me, but who cares? I'm not spending my days off doing 8 hours of free hair and resenting it because when you resent it, it's going to come out in passive aggression in another way. You're going to say things or behave a certain way because you're so angry. So instead, I was just like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And you're more than welcome to still come to the salon. And most of them still come to the salon, and they have the other girls do their hair, and they're happy go lucky. They love their hair, and everybody's happy. And now it's interesting because my sister is just starting a new business, and she's calling me going, it's so awkward. All my friends come and they just leave. They don't even offer to pay. I'm like, oh, really? I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. We absolutely positively have to be able to make sure that people know that we're in business. We're in business. Yeah.
Can you imagine like a Christmas party where your cousin, the gynecologist, slaps on the glove and starts pulling out the speculum at the table? Like, we're the only business that people think it's okay to have us bring our scissors to a dinner and put the towel around the neck and have at it.
And listen, we're not the only business and industry that people think is negotiable. But because we're inconsistent as an industry, they believe we are negotiable.
Yes.
You know, we've got all this different landscape going on now. We've got, the sweet people. We've got people that are like, well, okay, I can just charge you 80 today instead of the 120 that I would normally do, or whatever that is. And so they just assume then that every hairdresser, because one hairdresser was negotiable, that every hairdresser is negotiable. And, and honestly, if you don't have a really solid price menu and you're not prepared to, talk prices, these are areas that you can practice those communication skills in.
Yes. And if it's super uncomfortable, I always say at the minimum, start it with brand new people because you don't know them. Yeah. There's no awkwardness. There's no friendship, and I've shared with this group and with my coffee chat listeners, all of the things that I gave up time with my children for these clients, thinking they were much more to me than just a client. I felt the connection, whether they felt it or not. I thought I was a big part of their life and watched their kids grow up and, sent them cards when they had babies and all that kind of stuff. And you become friendly, but they're still not your friends. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And when I moved, I had all this guilt. Oh my gosh, so-and-so, I'm the only one that's ever done her hair. She came to me for color for the first time when I was 19 years old and nobody else has done her hair and I'm 52. Like, that's a huge amount of time and a relationship and I'm feeling terrible about it. I've heard from 2 people. I've been here a year in January. 2 people reached out to see how I was. 2 of my faves I reached out to. Because I thought, maybe they think they're bothering me. You never know how people get funny. So I went into the software, looked up their phone number. Hey, and got their voicemail. Hey, Nancy, you were always my favorite. I miss seeing you. Hope all is well. I know you come to Florida in the winter. Maybe we can get together, have a cup of coffee, whatever. Trying to keep the relationship going. Not even a return phone call. Did this one there for 17 years, every 4 weeks, like clockwork.
I know.
I wasn't feeling well, came in after funerals, went in on my day off, missed my kids' soccer games and banquets and all that stuff for all these people. And I try so hard I want to physically shake all the young and up and coming ones and say, please don't do this, because you get so bitter. I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to feel that way, but I'm like, God, my kids suffered so much and missed their mom.
Yeah.
And you don't get the gold watch at the end,
or even the toaster.
No plaque, no award with the only red carpet I've ever been on was at your event. I got to walk the red carpet. And I think I even missed that. I think I was late that day and I missed my walk. But, you think that it's going to be this like dramatic, the whole world is going to stop spinning on its axis when you stop doing hair, and it just doesn't happen. So all the people freaking out right now, don't freak out.
Don't freak out, but don't make it about you either. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see on a lot of these conversations that people are texting with their clients is they make it about them. They'll say things like, well, this is my job, or this is my career, or, I don't do this for free, or I have children, that I have children in college, or, that I'm raising, type of thing. The truth is it's not about you. This is where you have to step out of it, and you have to be able to say, I'm curious. Why are you asking for a discount today? I'm curious, what has you want to, have this same service done for less price than I'm offering?
I love that. That's a perfect answer. Put it back on them.
It will shift the way they're doing it. And they're like, oh, well, my last hairdresser just did it for a little bit more reasonable. And it's like, and then you're going to be, again, here you're going to acknowledge, I understand that there's a lot of hairdressers that also offer different pricing structures. I want to be clear on my pricing structure. Are you comfortable with moving forward? And then they're going to say something like, yeah, I suppose I am. I mean, it's really not that much of a difference. And it's like, okay, because I want to be sure that you're comfortable with it. Otherwise, I'm happy to refer you out. And you're almost pushing them away and pulling them back in. And I don't want to say that it's manipulative, but you're making it about
you're shifting
them.
The power. Yeah,
I
like that.
You're making it about them and providing them an opportunity to make a choice. Either choose to sit in my chair and let me do your hair, or choose to go to another hairdresser that might be less expensive.
I love that. One of my favorites is very forward with asking personal questions. We would be, in the color area, and I'm working with 2 other colorists, and there's 4 other stylists that are within earshot. And one of the girls would say, oh, Elaine is taking us all to whatever for Christmas. We're going to dinner and to see Hamilton or whatever Broadway show. And she would spin around her head and look up at me with the eyes and say, what's that setting you back? How much is that? How much is that costing you? And I would get my face would get all hot, and I'd be like, why is she asking me this in front of my staff? That's so rude. Yeah. And I remember saying to a therapist, how do you handle when people ask you when you buy a house and they say, oh, how much was it? Or you buy a car and like, how much was it? Like, that's just so rude. We were brought up to say, don't talk about people's salaries or pricing. If they want to tell you, that's great, but it's none of your business. And she said exactly how you're handling this. She said, just say to the person, can I ask why you would like to know? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, that's so simple, but it turns it and makes them feel uncomfortable for asking such a rude question. You're not saying, I'm not telling you, and getting defensive. You're just like, oh, I'm curious. Why would you like to know that? And right. they'll kind of back out of it, and it'll get diffused, and
it'll get diffused. And I tell you what, there's also a level of respect that happens in there, because then they're like, oh, this person's serious. This person's professional. And, it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy that we have to do that. But the way that we're communicating with clients is we're letting them take advantage of us in a lot of situations. And so this is really, like, you guys go into this new year and this new decade with, I'm going to screw up. I'm not always going to say things the right way, but you can always go back on it. So even if it's you said something like, oh, well, this is my career and I do charge for it. And go, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me take that back. I'm really actually curious as to why you asked that. It kind of took me by surprise. Why did you ask? You can always recover, even if you kind of start out with that reactive, because that's your emotion talking in that moment, because you're feeling unsafe. And then the minute you're like, wait a minute, hold on. I am actually safe. This is just a client questioning me. I'm safe. I'm going to dialogue with them in a way that's going to have this be a very powerful experience for both of us.
I love that. That's so true. Well, I have certainly taken a lot of your time tonight, girl. And a lot of the people in this group have enjoyed your summit, and they, have gotten great feedback. So you have been a very busy woman this week, as have I, and I don't want to keep you here even later, but I'm absolutely certain that I'm going to get a lot of great feedback, and I'm glad that you were able to be introduced to all these passionate stylists so that they know how wonderful you are and how much you do and continue to do for our industry. And I know you have even more wonderful, exciting things coming up, and I'm so grateful to be involved in the things that you do and to be asked to do things, because I think we can all make a big difference and take back the industry to the great industry that it always was. There's just way too many changes and not all of them positive. So we have to just stay in our lane and just keep on doing our thing and hope that the law of attraction brings everybody into our sphere of positive energy and stay out of those negative. I need to shower when I get out of some of those forums.
Oh, I agree. It's like got to wash all that negative up. No, thank you, Elaine. Thank you for bringing people together like this and giving them a different point of view and giving them a different insight and training them up on things that maybe they need more knowledge on. And this is a safe place to do it. And you've been a very safe educator to be able to provide that for people. And I love what you're about, love what you're doing. So listen, I'm going to say 2020 is the year of trust and collaboration. We got to trust each other more, trust yourself more, that you're making the right choices and that you're going to refine those things that you want to work on. But look for collaborations coming too, because I'd love to figure out ways to do more things with Elaine here as well.
Nice. I look forward to it. And this has been an absolute pleasure. So thank you. Thank you. And I hope you get some rest.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Bye.